How are all my favorite fly tyers today? Pete here at Spawn Fly Fish, and it's time to tie some flies. We are going to tie a fun nymph today, jig style, pretty much nondescript. It'll have a lot of parts that you've seen from other flies put together. It's going to be beautiful fish catcher for sure. So in the vise today, we do have the Ahrex FW555, this one being a size 10. For the bead, slightly different, but not really, slotted bead. This one, the 5/32 slotted tungsten bead from Hareline, gold. And then I've got 6 wraps of .020 lead-free wire just to hold everything in place. And let's get some thread going. Got some black 6/0 today, and of course 140 denier would be fantastic. All right, I'm gonna get some thread wraps going over these weighted wire wraps. Make sure nothing moves on us. There we go. Nothing to it. Let's get all the way back here and give ourselves just a little bump. As you see, I'm staying pretty much where that flat portion of the shank is ending, and it just starts that descent of the curved portion. So for today, for a tail, and keep in mind, jig oriented, so this is how it'll fish. This is the easiest way to tie it in the vise. I've got some Biots here, Goose Biots from Nature Spirit Fish Hunter. And this is fluorescent blue. Just gonna tie 2 of these tails in. And what I'm gonna do is just angle this first one toward you slightly. And as far as the length here, I'm looking at roughly half of a body length. So I'm looking for this angle to just kind of maintain here. I don't want it real exaggerated. You know, it doesn't have to be exact 45-degree angle coming off of there. I just want something parted. Something that looks like tails of a real bug. Now I can come in on my side, match the distance, all right, or length of the tail on my side, get a couple of securing wraps in here, and now as I go forward, these will line up together. I can get all of the butt section, if you will, of each biot tied down if I want, or I can cut them out if I want. It's up to you too. It's not really going to do much as far as changing the underbody of this bug. So a little nip and tuck. There we go. I am going to come through though and secure so that everything is as even as possible for our next element that's going to create our body. But first, let me find this bad boy. All right, so if you guys watch our videos, you may have seen I do some shenanigans in that dye lab, and this is one of those said shenanigans. Peccary just dyed. This is actually a sea breeze color, but it looks very similar to fluorescent blue. It looks very much like Kingfisher blue, all that good stuff. And I'm going to simply tie it in here by the tip. Get that situated. Nothing to it. And this tip's very fragile. You can see that. So I could have split that hair and gotten 2 fibers out of it for 2 flies. But because we're tying a size 10 nymph here, I want the full thickness of that hair. So I just left it as is. So it's essentially a 2-sided hair, which is kind of a weird thing to think of. All right, so now I've got a rib. This is extra small gold wire. And this one I will butt up against the weighted wire so that I do get an even wrap on that material. And what I've done is I have not tied that wire back to the same exact spot as the peccary so that I get one full wrap of peccary behind the wire, and then I'll get in front of it. And then again, that creates this little avenue or lane in which the wire will travel. So forgive me for 1 second here. I'm just going to be sort of picky and mindful of this first wrap or so. Make sure everything's going to sit exactly where I want it to. There we go. And if there's a bit of gap here in your wraps, it's okay. And if you notice, for whatever reason, you like that look better, that's fine. It might be tougher to repeat the gap long term. However, If you become fluent in wrapping peccary or individual hair or moose mane, anything like that, and you like that effect, by all means, one thing you can for sure do is just go up a size in your ribbing wire, right? So if I were using like a brassy or even small, I guess at that point, it would change the overall aesthetic of the fly. Would it change the performance? No, not one bit. Hate to tell you. All right, that's as far as I want to take that. And you see I've gotten all the way up to that weighted wire. And that weighted wire, those 6 wraps, that's again, one more way to give myself a mark or an indicator of where I want things to be separate, right? So that means I want the body to stop where the weighted wires stop. I want the thorax to begin where the weighted wires begin. Again, just utilizing the materials that are going to be part of the fly anyway to do double purpose. In this case, give us an indication of where to either start or stop. All right, so now we've got that wire that we so cleverly told where to go by that one simple little move, right? So it's doesn't always have to be incredibly difficult. This is all in all very simple. Just take your time. I am going to just kind of check on your side and see if I'm getting in that groove or spacing in between the peccary wraps. And so far, so good. I don't know why. There's something about peccary flies. I've always enjoyed tying them. I love fishing them. The fish, well, I think that's part of why I'm obsessed with them. The fish really like them. I think it's just that natural segmentation and all that effect from the natural product itself. And I don't know if you could ask for any more in a natural product. So there we go. We're getting to look a little bit buggy here. And for those of you that don't know the power of blue flies, well, that's why you're here, right? I'm going to just tell you from experience, blue, one of my favorite colors to fish for trout, rainbow trout, brown trout, grayling, anything like that. I am such a fan. All right, so if there's any controversy here, being a jig style fly, a lot of people will go ahead and tie this as a Euro style nymph or whatever, and put the flashback and the wing case and all this on that underside. I'm a glutton for punishment, whatever you want to call it. And so I'm working on what is the actual top of this bug. Doesn't mean you have to, but it's what I prefer. And so here is a piece of salt water Flashabou in holographic gold. And of course, it just so happens that we're using a gold bead. Funny how that works sometimes. All right, here I do have a piece of thin skin, and this is fly speck, clear black. And all I'm going to do now, if you see, I did cut that little tie-in spot there for myself to make it a little easier. And now I just want to remove this thin skin from its backing. And sometimes easier said than done. There we go. All right, tie this bad boy in right on top now of our flash. Oh, saltwater Flashabou. Yahtzee. Good to go. So now we need something in that thorax area. And for that, we're going to just go with some eyed peacock stick here. And I'll grab 3 Herls, I suppose, maybe 4. Let's see what we've got. I don't like that one. 3 it is. Now, just to make things a little easier on myself, avoid that hook point a little bit more. I can turn this back over. And there are our peacock fibers, our Herls. And then there's just going to be one more element that we'll add here after we get our little thorax. So let's twist all 3 Herls here to make one piece, one peacock rope, whatever you want to call it. Gives strength, gives a fuller release of all that goodness coming off of the quill. All those barbules, right? They matter. So there we go. Pretty much right up behind that bead and secure those peacock Herls. trim out those butts. Yeah, let's see. Going back over. A lot of you have seen, been pretty busy in that dye lab. One of the other things that happened to get dyed blue a few weeks ago, we've got some green-winged teal. And to me, yes, it is funny to say I have blue-dyed green-winged teal. However, some of you have asked, what do you do with this stuff? Here's a smaller feather from one of our bags. There's some big feathers, medium, small, all different applications, all that good stuff. Here's what I like to do with one of these smaller feathers. Now, I'm going to place this on top of our Peacock Herl. Make sure that my quill is as close to centered as possible there. And again, not really putting a lot of stress on with that thread, just gentle wraps. Now, watch this. I need these fibers to be a certain length, right? I don't need it outlandishly far past the body. And so just take your time, a little bit of pressure, and start pulling that feather, or that quill of the feather anyway, upward. And now we're going to have these legs, or a wing, whatever you want to call it, coming off that are going to match the length of our body. And that's what I want. A couple more wraps to really solidify. And now I've got these legs, or hatching wings, whatever you want to call it, but they're coming off of the right spot out of the thorax so that it covers, again, two purpose, one material. And with that barring in there, it is just deadly. The fish can't help themselves. They're going to come over and eat that pretty quickly. So trim that butt out. Almost done here. At this point, let's bring our thin skin over. All right, get one nice lash down, and I will try to show you what that's going to look like. And maybe a second wrap, solidify. And now our holographic gold Flashabou comes over, and we're going to lay that as centered as we can on that thin skin. There we go. Couple wraps, really solidify all that goodness. Now let's take that flash, that piece of flash, back over itself and just get a couple of wraps to catch that little bit right there. And now there's no way that's coming out, even if 50 fish eat it. There we go. Now let's carefully trim out our thin skin, and that little lip of thin skin material right there, it's okay. Because guess what? It's going to make sure nothing is slipping back or off, or whatever you want to call it. And now, just have to whip finish this thing. There's our first whip finish. Let's go ahead and put a second one in there. As you can see, I probably could have done with a few less fibers on your side, but I'm not going to cry about it, that's for sure. Neither will the fish. One thing, if I forgot to mention, fish don't count, at least not yet, that we've studied. So they're not going to go, ooh, if that had 2 less legs, I would have eaten it. Not how that works. Finish this thing. By all means, if you want to just get in there with some head cement, that's great. However, I do happen to have just a wee bit of Loon thin resin sitting here. So I'm going to coat that entire wing case of our thin skin. I'm going to run a strip of this, the excess, if you will, down the Peccary body, and just let it kind of sort itself out, run down the grooves, give it a little tap tap. And now when I come in with this light, watch your eyeballs, I'm just going to cure that wing case. And then what happens is it gets this little bubbly effect. If you want it more exaggerated, by all means, come in for a second layer. Don't go crazy and put a big old drop of thick on there and call it good. Nah, cure the heck out of that resin, and it'll be much stronger. It'll last. It'll fish better. It'll look better in the box. All that good stuff. So there you have it. We have, again, a little bite tail. Great. We have Peccary dyed in-house just because, and then we get the Peacock doing what Peacock does in the thorax. We've got some teal dyed Kingfisher blue, just again another blue factor into this bug. So great. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I sure did. If you had fun, by all means, please hit like, please hit subscribe, and we will see you all on the water.